Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. The satire that accidentally became a masterpiece. Hi, back in July, Thick as a Brick was the very first album I decoded here on the Collection Vault. It was fully talking head format and I was nervous. At the time, not decoding deeply enough, I honestly don't think I did the album justice. Today I am revisiting that masterpiece. So let's return to Jethro Tull's satire that accidentally became a legend. Towards the end of this decode, we can have a closer look at this awesome album cover. Let's set the stage and have a quick look at progressive rock in the early 1970s. By 1972, progressive rock was swelling to operatic proportions. 20-minute suites, cryptic symbolism, concept albums wrapped in mythology, every band trying to outgrand the next. Born out of psychedelic experimentation in the late 1960s, prog rock fused classical, jazz and folk influences into sprawling compositions. The Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's and the Moody Blues' Days of Future Past had opened the door. And soon Pink Floyd, Genesis, Yes and King Crimson were pushing boundaries with ambition and virtuosity. Into this world stepped Jethro Tull. Mischievous, theatrical and ready to poke fun at the genre itself. The birth of a fictional prodigy. Fresh off Aqualung, Ian Anderson disagreed with the critics who insisted it was a concept album. So he did something wonderfully mischievous. He set out to create the mother of all concept albums, not as a tribute, but as a parody. To sell the satire, the band invented an 8-year-old genius named Gerald Bostock, supposedly the author of the album's lyrics. The original vinyl came wrapped in a full newspaper, the same Cleve Chronicle, filled with absurd stories, fake scandals and tongue-in-cheek commentary. It wasn't just an album, it was a world, a theatrical universe built to poke fun at the seriousness of prog rock. And it was, and still is, the world to me. One song, two sides, infinite movements. Here's the twist. The music was too good to remain a joke. Behind the living organism were 5 musicians shaping its every twist. Ian Anderson's flute and voice carried the satire with wit and fire. Martin Barr's guitar gave it grit and thunder. John Evans's keyboards added symphonic depth. Jeffrey Hammond's bass grounded the chaos with a sly groove. And Barrymore Barlow, in his debut, drove it all forward with youthful energy. Together they turned parody into performance and performance into art. On the original vinyl, none of the portions were labelled with track titles. It was one continuous composition, split only by the physical limitations of vinyl. The pieces move like a living organism, shifting tempos, changing moods, weaving acoustic gentleness into electric storms. Flute lines dart in and out like birds. Guitar passages rise and fall like tides. Themes appear, disappear, and return transformed. It's playful, theatrical, and above all, musically fearless. Musical mastery for its time and beyond. The satire behind the sound. The lyrics attributed to young Gerald mock everything from social expectations to artistic pretension. They question authority, poke at moral hypocrisy, and challenge the idea of genius itself. Anderson wasn't just parodying prog rock. He was parodying the way critics and audiences tried to define art. The album asks a simple question: who decides what is profound and what is nonsense? In that sense, Thick as a Brick is both a mirror and a mask, reflecting the absurdity of the world while hiding behind the fictional child poet. A masterpiece that wasn't supposed to be one. What makes the album remarkable is that the satire never collapses under its own weight. The musicianship is too sharp, the composition too intricate, and the emotional undercurrent too real. The band may have set out to mock the excesses of prog rock, but in doing so, they created one of its defining achievements. It's the ultimate irony, a parody that outprogged the prog bands. A cultural snapshot. The early 1970s were full of skepticism and shifting identities. People were questioning institutions, traditions, and the idea of authority itself. Thick as a Brick tapped into that mood, not with anger, but with wit. It laughs at the world while acknowledging its complexity. It's clever but never cold, playful but never shallow, and that balance is what keeps it alive today. Why it still resonates. Half a century later, the album feels strangely modern. Artists still wrestle with labels, audiences still debate what counts as real art, and satire remains one of the sharpest tools for truth. Thick as a Brick reminds us that creativity doesn't have to be serious to be meaningful. It can be humorous, theatrical, even absurd, and still carry emotional weight. Sometimes the most honest statements come wrapped in exaggeration. My encounter with the album. The first time I heard Thick as a Brick, I expected a typical prog rock journey. Long, complex, maybe a little self-indulgent. But somewhere along the way, I realized it was doing something different. It wasn't just taking me on a trip, it was questioning the trip itself. That moment stayed with me, and I embraced it. Why this album matters on the Collection Vault. Jethro Tull has become a cornerstone of this channel. The albums resonate deeply with viewers, and each one opens a new doorway into storytelling, musicianship, and cultural reflection. Aside from that, I've been a fan since I was about 13, thanks to an older brother. Thick as a Brick is where that journey truly begins. It's the album that redefined what a concept album could be, by pretending to be the most overblown concept album ever. And it deserves to be explored with the same care and curiosity that shaped its creation. Closing thoughts. If you've experienced Thick as a Brick, you know how layered and surprising it can be. If you haven't yet, this might be the perfect moment to dive in, not just for the music, but for the playful intelligence behind it. You'll find it's a journey worth taking. It's an album that rewards attention, invites interpretation, and still manages to smile at itself. If you enjoyed this exploration of Jethro Tull's brilliance, consider subscribing to the Collection Vault. There's always another story waiting, another album, another voice, another moment where music and meaning collide. And if you'd like to help me keep these Vault stories spinning, you can buy a Vault key. The link's in the description. As indicated earlier, when I first decoded Thick as a Brick, I was nervous in finding my voice. Revisiting it now with more camera confidence ensures that I am more than likely giving the album the care it deserves. Thank you for joining me in setting that right and for keeping this journey alive. Next time on the Collection Vault, Jethro Tull's A, the album that wasn't meant to be Tull. I promised we would have a deeper look at this amazing cover. Well, here it is. This is the front page that folds inwards. It's the size of a regular LP of the day, and outwards giving it the feel of a newspaper. Apologies for the tattered state of this cover, but it is over 50 years old. Alright, paging through. We have many ads and articles. As you can see, numerous ads and articles, and it actually goes on and on and on. If we turn the next page, all right, and the next page, and you have a little kiddies corner there. That's something one of you guys mentioned in the comments and actually recalled in the comments. Here we have Thick as a Brick by Gerald Bostock, and naturally it'll start off with, really don't mind if you sit this one out, the lyrics. There we go, of course. So ride yourself over the fields, and you make all your animals deals, and your wise men don't know how it feels to be thick as a brick. Sorry, embarrassing myself there. Even a little horoscope down at the bottom. And it goes on and on and on. Do not see me, rabbit. And cartoons and classified ads, etc. Right, and then we come to the back page. Traditionally a sports page on most newspapers of the day. And once again we take it and fold it up, and there we have our album cover, St. Cleve Chronicle. Well, thanks for joining me. Until the next Decode, keep listening, keep questioning, and keep discovering. Stay tuned.